Welcome to See You in the Lobby, the post-Super Bowl edition.
But we're not going to talk anything about Super Bowl.
Not even an ounce is the issue. We spent this morning talking about Gwyneth Paltrow, so honestly, you never really...
Still hilarious.
You never really know what's going to happen. She still doesn't remember she's in Spider-Man. Anyway, we had a hell of a past week in the WNBA, I would say, filled with somehow even more scandals. It's
Gotta love it.
It's really a whole lot. I think that's probably where we should start because I feel like it was a huge deal, and in the moment people talked about it, and somehow it's already trailed off in a way that I think is kind of bizarre because to me it's like a big moment in this league. The Las Vegas Aces are under investigation this time for circumventing the cap, aka they found ways to pay players under the table and sort of get around the whole 1.4-ish million salary cap, which is how they're able to stack their starting lineup with 5 of the best players in the world. Marissa, what was your reaction when you saw the report, and what do you think is going to happen from here?
I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, all right, keep scrolling. In other news, I mean, I think that's why it's already like out of the news cycles. It's common in sports and at all levels and all sports. People get paid on the table all the time. This isn't the first time that W players got paid under the table, and it's certainly not the last. That's how teams have been getting by. That's a lot of time when you see these superstars taking these huge pay cuts, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're so great. They're doing it for the betterment of the team. They just want to win." No, they get something slid under the table.
They get their checks in a different way.
Yeah, like there might be other things in their contracts that maybe it's a nice little apartment. Maybe it's some sort of stipend, but it's not the first time, and it just definitely won't be the last.
Here's why I say it's a big moment, though, because, yes, we kind of assume that all these things happen in not just the WNBA, all sports. But this is the first time somebody actually brought it to the league's attention and made it into a whole thing. Like, there is clearly some issues amongst ownership at this point. Maybe a little.
Somebody's salty.
Maybe a little bit of fear from other programs about what's going on right now, because there are clearly 2 teams that are not like the others in the WNBA right now. And so far, the Liberty have escaped this. Maybe they are clean. Who knows? But the Aces right now are the ones under target. But like, how do you think we as fans should react, and how do you think the league should maybe think about this whole situation?
I mean, of course, like the integrity of the game, you want to keep the integrity of sports. But again, this happens at every level. This isn't a professional sports problem. There's AAU kids getting paid to play on teams. Like that's like I had an AAU organization for 10 years, and then it just got to the point that like I couldn't sustain it anymore. I'm not an NBA player. I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, so I can't. Like parents were like, "Well, are you going to pay for this and that?" And I'm like, I can get you gear and some cool shoes, but no, I can't pay $10,000 to front your summer. But that's what parents are expecting now. It's like, all right, I could pay this AAU player under the table. Then you get to high school. It's the same thing. College. I had a friend in college. Leave it at that. But we went to go visit him one weekend, a group of us. He lifted up his mattress and had $40,000 in cash under his mattress. Like, this has been going on. Like, it's at every level. It just gets bigger. So now the professional level, instead of $40,000 under your mattress, is just something a little different.
This almost feels like pre-NIL college sports vibes with what's happening in the WNBA right now. But I am curious, like, where we go from here, because it's almost like the weirdest thing to me. We have spent years with this league being like, pay the players. They're not making enough money. We need change. Mark Davis found a way to pay those players. Maybe it's not in the way that we would expect them to be paid, but he's finding a way for them to get money. So how does the league now take that and make change within itself? I think that's the thing I'm looking for. Yes, the Aces need to be punished for this. We have to have some sort of structure. We can't just be ignoring rules left and right. But when the rules are preventing a good thing from happening, which is the players being paid what their actual market worth is, I feel like the league has to do some introspective, how can we make ourselves better here? How can we take what is defined as illegal right now and make it legal, because there are people who are willing to pay the money who we keep saying the players need to get. So like, how do we work from here?
I think it starts with each owner having like the same set of rules for each set of owners. It's not like because Mark Davis and Joe Tsai, they have all this money and they can do more. So it's like, all right, let them get away with it, because the league knows this stuff is happening too. So, but I mean, honestly, I don't know. Like, the league has a lot of areas of growth. And a lot of it too is on players. So, like the next CBA agreement, it's players again. They have to be locked in. They can't just
big thing for me.
Wait till the final hour to put their votes in and for their input. It's because then people are happy with things. It's no, like if you don't understand something in the CBA, ask and really spend the time with it, because it's not only it may not affect you that following year, but years down the road or for the next generation. So like I think it's a combination of things. It's not just the league. It's players in the CBA. It's owners investing. So I guarantee whoever said something to the Aces, well, not, I don't want guaranteed, but they're probably just salty because they don't have the pockets to do shit under the table, or they were entering this upcoming season, thought maybe they were going to be a contender, and now all hope is lost. So, I mean, I don't know. But again, I don't think like society and fans should look at this as necessarily a bad thing, because that's just the nature of sports at all levels. It's been happening. There's no way to really control it. I mean, they've tried to, how many years? They've tried to put rules in place for years. It hasn't deterred anybody from doing it now. No. And your favorites have done it at all levels. You think these programs are clean? No, they just are a little more discreet about what they do. So it's just a part of sports, and it's just accepting that and realizing that it doesn't make a player a bad person for taking something under the table.
I am curious though. Obviously, like you sitting here as a person who's been through this process before and had to vote on CBAs and seeing player interests in all of these things. Does exposing something like this and all of the payments that everyone kind of assumes, but maybe not everyone has been a part of, and seeing how much money Mark Davis is actually willing to put into this program, does that make you more bought in for the next round of CBA negotiations? Are you feeling a new type of, there's money here, maybe I should be more interested in what's going on and see how I can, pitch my voice into this?
I think so. I think as the years are progressing and you're seeing some of the benefits of the last CBA, I think it's going to get more people involved, because now a lot more people have stopped going overseas because there is more money to make in market if you stay home and don't go overseas. So like that's something. So I think more and more players are wanting to do that, and there's more options now. Like there's Athletes Unlimited. A lot of players are deciding to do that, and then you're staying in market. So you may not be getting the check that you're getting overseas, but it's still enough to make you want to stay here. So I think more people are going to want to get involved and realize that their voices are heard, and that's important. As much as, you and I talk about the league needing to do X, Y, and Z to help it grow, it is on us as players to know what's in the CBA agreement and to voice our opinions.
That, and the other wild thing, I will save you from having to comment on it. But hell, if I'm a player also, I hear this is great PR for Mark Davis. If I'm hearing this, I'm like talking to my agent, and I'm like, what's Mark got over there? Like, I'm interested in a vet min contract. Like,
but again, too, there's levels to it. It's even like NIL, like the NIL discussion, where a lot of people that are against it because it doesn't benefit the 12th man on the bench. That's life. There's levels to everything in life. Everybody does it. It's not equality across the board. So, of course, if you're not going to get the same as AZ FUD if you never come off the bench. That's reality. That's real world. That's life. So it's the same if you're getting paid on the table. I'm sure there are players that are salty that they're not getting these offers, but again, there's levels to it.
People like capitalism until the players actually start benefiting from it, which fascinating. Anyway, that's my take on that.
Your take? Matt wants to get paid under the table.
Fuck. My DMs are open. We also had a big trade, which also peaked WNBA free agency. I had a good time with it because it felt like every other league where there were leaks coming out. First of all, when you have 4 teams in a trade, it's always going to be messy. There's a lot of camps who have a lot at stake here. So we saw the leaking of it's going to be a 3-team trade. It's going to be a 4-team trade. It's going to involve Diamond DeShields. It's going to involve Marina Mabry. And then it broke down for a minute. Then it came back. 4 teams in a 12-team league being in the same trade is pretty wild. Mm-hmm. But what this trade revealed to me was also wild. So the very brief breakdown I will give. Player-wise, Michaela Onyenwere goes to Phoenix. Diamond DeShields goes to the Dallas Wings. Marina Mabry goes to the Chicago Sky. A ton of picks are pushed around in a bunch of different places. What did that 4-team trade show you, Marissa?
I was actually shocked by it in a way. Like it it kind of felt like lateral moves across the board. Like Diamond and Mabry, I mean, depending on what you're looking for, the kind of like one, in my opinion, one's not better than the other. I think they're different players and they do different things. But maybe it just was like a change of scenery type thing. Maybe Diamond just needed to get it out of Chicago, and maybe James like, you know what, everybody's leaving. Let me just let me just ship her up too. So I don't know. Maybe we want to get out. Who knows? But I don't think there's a clear winner in it because again, it felt very lateral across the board. But like we were chatting before this show, I think you're right in that it shows that Chicago's still trying to win games. He's
sure is.
He's not just conceding. So I think you and I were wrong. I think teams actually are still trying to win.
That's
like the middle of the pack teams. I think if you feel like you can finish like third, fourth, fifth, you might still be trying to win some games. But I feel like anything after that.
I was gonna say that's how I feel. I feel like there's a very clear 1-2. We don't need to go over it. DC is in that third spot. Connecticut probably in that fourth spot, especially after the trade for Tiffany Hayes, which we should probably hit on at some point as well. But everything else feels kind of wide open to me. So I see what Chicago was thinking in we can add Mabry. They had a decent free agency. Izzy Harrison, Elizabeth Williams, Courtney Williams. They still have Kalia Copper. I can see how you can convince yourself that you can be that number 5 seed. And I don't know if you necessarily win more than one playoff series, but maybe that's enough. And maybe you can then take that energy into 2024 free agency and be like, hey, we're trying to win. We have win now players. Come join us. Mm-hmm. I can see that. Maybe that's the pitch to Emma Miesemann still too, who's still unsigned. Like, hey, we are going to be competitive, especially with you. Maybe we can make this work. But it was a big haul. Like, Chicago parted with their first round pick from this year, their first round pick from next year, and a pick swap in 2025, which if they stink in 2025, that means they give up another good pick in that year.
That was super, like that seemed
steep.
I'm not even seeing, that is a lot to give up for Mabry.
And then Mabry signed to a maximum 3-year contract, which
I wasn't quite sure why those moves were made, but maybe there's a grand plan that obviously we're not.
Chicago believes in you, Marina Mabry. They certainly believe in you.
No pressure.
It was wild. That felt to me like a trade you do for a proven all-W player, which Mabry is awesome. Mabry is not that awesome yet. Maybe Chicago thinks that they can get her there, but
maybe. I don't know.
Weird trade, but what it did show, Chicago is still going for it, which I respect because everyone else seems to be like, well, we're out.
I was going to say, definitely respect, because I'd be on the well, we're out. It's like the one gif where it's all the guys at the whiteboard. That'd be me trying to figure out how I can best tank to get my option for next year's draft.
We can transition also into the one trade I just brought up because it was a big one. Connecticut did get Tiffany Hayes out of Atlanta, which kind of surprised me. I think Atlanta also had first round of negotiations with Tiffany, so she must have been like, I'm out, or they decided we're done with you one way or the other. But Connecticut added a good piece. Again, it doesn't make the Jonquel Jones trade fine. It still burns. But Connecticut has another scorer now, which is something they didn't have. They've needed.
No, I mean, last year you could tell there was something going on between Tiffany and Atlanta.
That early departure was some
weird
she
stuff. Just pieced out and then some cryptic stuff.
Right after they were like, they had a playoff push too.
Yeah, on social. So I don't know. She'd been there for a while now. It was, I think, maybe time for her to get out. Excited to see what she can do in Connecticut. I do think that's a score they needed.
Big time.
Losing Courtney Williams and like that dynamic score that you can just give them the ball and they can literally go get a bucket. So I think that's a piece that'll definitely be helpful for them. So I think they can be one of those teams that to me, be in that third, fourth spot.
I was gonna say that to me solidified that there's 4 teams that are for real and they are that 4th team.
Yeah,
which is cool. That's good. Mm-hmm. It's another matchup that I think both New York and Vegas will be tested in.
And then saw today, like Bree Jones is officially coming back.
Yeah, I mean that team is still good.
Yeah, and then like people don't like forget DB is on the team. Like
I don't know why, but yeah.
Like I see stuff and I don't see any talk of like they have fucking DeWanna Bonner still. Like
they're still going to be an issue. Their defense is still going to be awesome too, which matters a ton.
And then again, I'm the president of the Steph White fan club, so
New coach, new vibes.
I think they'll be good. Oh, I get to do my job.
I think finally we should conclude with what was hyped to be, partially by me, the the biggest college basketball game of the season. Undefeated number 1 South Carolina, undefeated number 3 LSU. It was brutal.
I think the only folks that thought LSU had a chance were LSU fans and the players on that team. One, it was great for the game, like to see that arena, how packed it was, and it was loud. Like you could hear how loud it was. Like great for the game, but there's levels to it. LSU is not ready. I knew they weren't ready. I think a lot of people knew they weren't. Like I said, everybody but LSU knew they weren't ready. It's different, like when you are such a good team and you have such great players, you give off this false sense of like it's easy, or like they make the game look easy, and then there's a knock to them like sometimes they don't score as much. They're such a good defensive team, but then when you could watch it as a player and be like, oh, like we can take them, like yeah, and then you realize it ain't.
Then you're trying to score buckets on the inside against Cardoso and Aaliyah Boston, and you're like, what am I doing here?
And then you listen to the broadcast and you hear the things that Dawn like instills in her players and how she runs that program. That's why they're so good. Carolyn Peck was saying how I can't remember the exact wording, but essentially Dawn's like, everybody's talented because that's what it was. She's like, how do you prep when you have 8 players that can be in the starting 5? And she's just like, no, each game, like you have to prove to me that you're prepared for this game. It's game plan 1, but 2, it's how did you perform in practice that week? How are you as a teammate? Did you give 100%? Those are the things. And she's like, I keep it real. And it's not to make you upset at me. Like, I want that to motivate you. And it's like, that's how they operate. You don't see any jealousy.
She's such a good coach.
Yeah, she's such a good coach. You don't
Absolutely
see any jealousy on that team. You can sense they want the success across the board. And Carolyn is saying she always tells the team, like, keep the main thing the main thing. And if you keep that championship in the forefront and you understand that's the goal, all that other stuff is going to fall in place. Like, you look at Aaliyah Boston, her numbers from last year drastically dropped. I think she's averaging 13 and 8. But she's still in the National Player of the Year conversation. So, like, that, for young players coming up, like, look at that. Like, look at Aaliyah Boston. National Player of the Year last year. Numbers are drastically down.
Unanimous number 1 pick in this upcoming draft.
What's that?
The unanimous number 1 pick coming.
And she's still going to be the number 1 pick. She's still in National Player of the Year conversation. So it's not always about putting up huge numbers. And you can be on a team like that and still accomplish those individual goals if you keep that one vision in the forefront. So I think what she's doing in South Carolina is great. And yeah. Like you said, it's South Carolina over everybody. But stop coming in my man's DMs and attacking him.
I know. I can't win on it. Which I can't trust enough. I went to Maryland. I'm a Maryland guy. I don't have a fight in the South Carolina UConn war. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what it showed me too, right? Like they haven't lost since March of last year. It's been nearly a full year since South Carolina has lost. Big time game. Everyone showed up from the beginning. It was like 18-2 or something crazy at the very beginning of the game. And I'll give LSU some credit. They did fight back. They made it interesting enough in the third quarter to keep me watching. But when it came to it, I mean, when your best player is a post, and Angel Reese is a great player, but she's not at that Aaliyah Boston level yet. Maybe she will get there. But I want to hope that she's going to take that game and be like, all right, I know I need to get a little bit better, and she has a whole other year to get better, and the rest of this year. But South Carolina is just playing a different game than everybody else right now. They are not completely unbeatable. Teams have come close. They've had to fight in a couple of games. But I think it's wild to consider that anybody is really in their league right now.
Yeah, and it's not just strictly talent. Like, because maybe you could make an argument that a healthy UConn on paper is better than South Carolina, but it's their experience. It's the way Dawn runs that program. It's how well they're coached. Like, there's so many other things that go into it other than, like, what makes South Carolina so great, in my opinion, is not their talent. It's how Dawn, it's that program. It's the culture she has built there. And what she's done, I don't think people realize how hard it is in today's, like, climate with NIL, when you hear players are wanting guaranteed millions to sign with certain schools, and it's hard to recruit. The transfer portal. So like what she's been able to build and sustain in this climate, I think is super, super impressive.
And Aaliyah Boston seems like the perfect type of superstar for your college team, for your pro team too, but especially now for your college team. Like you were saying before, a player who has the capability to put up 30 and 10, but she can also have really impactful games, scoring 10 and 5, and she's cool with it as long as the W comes out of it. Like, that's special in a National Player of the Year. And
it's exciting because, like, obviously teams are game planning for her, so it opens up for everybody else. But if you need a bucket, give the ball, give it to her down
and she
low.
shows some range now, which is really exciting me as like a person who's like ready to see what she's like at the next level. She's got no hesitation on that jumper now. She's shown that she has some 3-point range. She's going to be a great player.
Yeah, I think so too. And just her demeanor, like she just seems, like you said, I think she's a great all around player, and it's going to be fun to watch her in the W. And yeah, I think it's South Carolina and then everybody else.
But go Terps.
Yeah, always go Terps. Always go Terps.
We still have Diamond Miller. Anything can happen.
Speaking of, she had 31-9 on senior night. Shout out to the Terps.
We love Diamond Miller. Just don't bring up that South Carolina game. It never happened. Woo! That is certainly a women's basketball show. I think we did it.
We did it. Let's see.
I will see you next week, friends. I'm being told I'm supposed to remind people where to follow us, and I'm usually pretty bad at that. Follow Gaming Society on Twitter. Follow Gaming Society on Instagram. Follow Gaming Society on YouTube. Follow Gaming Society on TikTok. Follow Gaming Society on Spotify. Follow Gaming Society on MySpace.
Follow us literally every social platform.
Also, see you in the lobby on TikTok. Do I have any more things? Are we good? Hit the follow button a lot of times. It'll be a great exercise.
See you in the lobby.